So we're going to delve into the Concall analysis of Asian Paints. So you have an idea about the company Asian Paints, the brand, the company, the story of the company. We are going to directly delve into the detailed analysis of this one particular Concall that I have chosen. So when you're looking at Asian Paints, the Concall is, according to me, one of the most important documents. In fact, before I actually go through the annual report of a company, I personally like to go through the Concall of the company first. Because going through the Concall and understanding the questions that are being raised, it gives me an idea as to how should I read the annual report. So personally, when I start with a company's analysis, or when I'm going through or trying to understand the company's management, decisions, strategy, etc., everything actually, future direction, forward direction and all, I look at the Concall, because there's a lot of debate, you can call it, or a lot of discussion, a lot of Q&A that happens over here. Let's get into it, and then you'll understand better. So I've taken the Q4 and 12-month FY 2020. So this Concall is of the last quarter of the year, financial year 2020. Right? So therefore it also becomes a 12-month Concall. It's not like a Concall for 12 months, because every quarter the company releases its quarterly report. Based on the quarterly report, the analysis, the Concall takes place between the company generally represented. I'll show you the people representing the company and the investors, and the investors have their own questions with regards to the financials, with regards to the future of the company, with regards to any major decision that has taken place, or any change in the economy. Let's say raw material price has gone up, or the government has come up with a different policy. So all those questions are there. So that is what we see. So Q4, and so at the end of Q4, that is also representing the final Concall of that particular financial year. So this is the year 2020. You might be doing this lecture on in a much later stage, at a much later stage or something. It doesn't matter. Our focus is not on the year or how current the data is. That is not the objective over here. The objective over here for this lecture is to understand how to read a Concall, how to analyze a Concall, and it is going to save you a lot of time. So again, let's actually delve into it. So this Concall had taken place in the month June 23rd, 2020. So the quarter ending is March 31st, 2020. The Concall, obviously your quarterly reports are out, and then the Concall takes place. So that is happening on 23rd of June 2020. I believe the annual report was also released by then. So 23rd June 2020, that is for financial year 2020. So April 2019 to March 2020 is the financial year 2020. Jan 20 to March 20 is the Q4. And for that Q4 and also the entire financial year, 3 Concalls have already taken place over here. 1, 2, 3 would have taken place over here. And for this, the Concall is taking place on the 23rd of June. For this, the Concall is taking place on the 23rd of June. Obviously, after the quarterly is prepared and all that happens, then the Concall takes place. So this is your June 23rd Concall, Asian Paints Limited. That is the front page. This is the front page. Also, you need to start understanding how the front page of a Concall looks like. So this is the cover page of the Concall. And now who all are represented in this Concall? Just a second. So the Concall from the company's side, the people representing the company, one is the MD and CEO of the company. He actually joined in this year only. You have the CFO and the company secretary of the company. Generally, at times the CFO and company secretary are 2 different people. There is a GM Finance and the corporate communications, which is basically the IR department, investor relations team. So investor relation is basically the liaison between the markets, as in investors, mutual funds, stock markets, etc., and the company. So they bridge the gap. So that is also a very interesting role. And MD and CEO, obviously you understand, is the one who's actually heading the company. CFO and GM Finance are going to be responsible for all the finance related, all the number crunching related questions. CEO also is responsible, but CEO is more in terms of strategy, decision making, and you know, the steering the direction of the company, not just finance per se. So these are the people who are going to be answering questions on the behalf of Asian Paints. Now, I'll teach you how to read the Concall over here, how to start analyzing the Concall over here. Be very attentive and make sure there are certain pointers that you start taking. So I'll give you a few dictations in between that, you know, these are the points you can make. You have to learn how to apply your knowledge very, very well. That is the whole objective of this session, this analysis, how to analyze it. It's great, the amount of, it's very interesting. Basically, also what you need to do is, you need to understand is, I'll repeat the same sentence when I'm discussing the annual report and all also. When you're analyzing a company, you should know more than the management of the company. The management knows everything that is happening inside. They obviously have more information, but you as an analyst, either you're giving a loan to the company, you're doing a credit rating for the company, you're planning to invest in the company, you're issuing an equity research report on the company, you're planning a merger acquisition acquisition with the company, you want to acquire the company, whatever be it, you need to understand the company very, very well. It should feel that I'm running this company for the last 10 years. That is the amount of involvement, and you have to dive deep into the company and the company's information and everything. So let's see how it is happening. So the first part is very, very simple. So again, you can also, again, small things, header, footer, the way people talk, the kind of language people use, you have to be very attentive with all these things, and don't you dare touch your phones and all that while doing my class. Asian Paints Limited, you've got your date and the company's name, company name and logo, again the logo over here. Moderator starting the discussion, welcoming people. It's a listen only mode, so everybody will not be able to talk. Obviously, it is going to be only the few panelists and all, those who are invited, they'll be able to ask questions, and people will be specifically told to ask questions. It is not going to be a shitty reality shows where roadies or something. It's not going to be like that. I don't know if I need to beep this word or not, but I think chalta hai. तुम लोग का language से तो better ही मेरा. Anyway, sorry. So it's all good. So basically the company, and now everybody is going to be welcomed. So the IR head introduces the team. The investor relation team is actually communications. They are the ones who are responsible for the communication between the company and the investors, analysts, etc., market at large. So they're inviting everybody, all the people from the company's point of view, and all those who are going to be asking questions over here. Then the company's CEO Amit Singhal is going to be starting the discussion. So there are going to be certain introductory remarks, and then we are going to be opening the discussion for Q&A session. There will be a question and there will be an answer. We will see. So there are these introductory remarks after that. In the introductory remark, you have to understand we've taken a in the introductory remark, if you see, we've taken a very, very interesting time for this particular con call. That is immediately Q4 was the lockdown phase, if you understand. The lockdown due to the COVID situation in the year 2020, a kind of a landmark year, unfortunately of course, is going to be, the lockdown was initiated in the month of March. That was absolutely towards the end of the quarter. So even when we are going to analyze this particular annual report, you need to understand that the last quarter was January, February and March. January, February was not facing so much of a challenge, and March also the half a month was fine. So if a company is trying to give too many excuses that last quarter was not a growth and this and that and all, so it is possible that they're trying to cover up their losses, because ultimately the lockdown took place in the last 10 days or so of the month of March. But again, that is a major concern, and that is something that the con call is going to be discussing a lot about, that how the company is going to manage the situation with respect to sustainability of revenue, the employees, are you laying off people? So there'll be a lot of questions with respect to the con call over here. You have to be very attentive, because a 20-page con call, and I can just discuss this one con call for like 5 hours. So it's that amazing, the analysis part of it. So that is why I'm going a little fast over here. So March 20 was the lockdown. That's a major event. So I've just highlighted already before I'm starting the class, I've already done a little bit of analysis over a few pages, and it is just that while reading I was marking and I was writing these things. So even when you guys are going to be reading the con call, I'll tell you how to do it. I'll give you a little bit of homework or something after I go through a few pages and give you a little direction as to how you read a con call. It's very important to know these things. So I know it becomes, most of these things are done on the job learning, but the problem is that obviously, seniors and all, everybody is very occupied in their work, and it gets very difficult to give you that kind of direction. So what we are trying to do over here is that what you learn, how to read a con call, you learn in the next 2 years or 3 years on the job. I want you to have it immediately so that you can pace up. So how do we go ahead with the con call? So March 21 was a lockdown. So we just underline, okay, there's a lockdown. So that later on, and so later on, if you want to revisit the con call, it becomes easier. That is one reason. And second, the more you write, I'm not asking you to write paragraphs, but the more you write, the more retention is there. And people, when I'm looking at analysts, say for example, an analyst or a fund manager is dealing in, let's say, 8 or 10 securities throughout the year. So you need to know the securities in and out. I know people who remember the margins, the profit and the revenue and all the figures to the crore, to the last digit, and they remember for the last few years, they remember all the financials. That number crunching, that retention is very important, which now people have started taking very casually. That focus, that retention, that remembering of numbers is very important, and which comes only when you are that into the financials of the company. You're so engrossed. There's a reason why I'm saying this. Anyways, so there is a double-digit volume growth. So first of all, it is for volume. It may not be for annual, and it is a double-digit annual volume growth for the first 2 months of Q4. For the first 2 months of Q4. So there is no guarantee that it is for the entire year. So when you're reading, you have to be very careful as to what number is and what is being shown, what is being written. And it is for the volume, the number of units you are selling, the quantity, the volume you are selling. It is not about the profitability or the EPS or the ROE or anything. It is about the volume. So when you're reading, be very attentive. Obviously, don't think that, for a con call, you're going to spend like 20 minutes the way I'm spending with you right now. While reading, register in the mind. While reading, these should automatically register in the mind that, okay, it's a volume growth. It is not profit and ROE and all. And this will come with time when you start reading multiple con calls and all. Right? And of the financial year till February 2020. Then we are talking about the quarter ended low single digit. So you see how the data is being presented, how they are talking, because they want to show that, see, lockdown is to be blamed, even though lockdown was just the last 1 month also, if you consider things were getting disrupted and all of that. But we are not sure whether it's blame game or not, because a lot of supply chain gets broken and a lot of things happen actually. It's not that easy to comment that, they're trying to hide something. But the first 2 months was a double-digit volume growth. But the last month was, because of that, the quarter ended in a low single-digit growth rate over here. The next thing we are talking about is large share in the large undercoat market, etc. So if you want to do well, learn the science and technology behind these companies. If you want to actually do well, just give me a second. Actually, it's easier this way. Asian Paint, Concall. So if you want to do well, learn the science and the technology behind it. So basically what happens over here is, when we're looking at the undercoats, and there are certain terms and all that are going to crop up, and depending on the company you're analyzing. So if I'm going to be analyzing a banking company or an insurance company, I need to get a little idea about the banking, insurance, etc. related regulations and all, because their presentation of their annual report, as in their financial statement, is also a little different. I'll give you an example. So there's somebody I know, he's a fund manager, and he's a fund manager into the pharmaceutical segment. And if you talk to him, he will know the laws and all of FDA approvals and all. When you're exporting medicines, drugs and all from India to the US, FDA approval is required, and they're very, very stringent and very strict. At times companies work hard and all, and loop in. A lot of companies, these guys face a lot of issues with respect to the FDA approval. Once their factory is terminated, or they get into an approval stage where medicines from that particular unit or that particular manufacturing unit is not allowed to be exported to the US, it creates a problem. You're understanding the idea? So therefore, FDA laws, how much time does the clearance and managing all the paperwork and getting the compliance and all taken care of, how much time does it take? Because for that time period, the company loses its revenue in terms of the pharmaceutical sales to the US, or let's say the export driven country. And you have to again analyze that what percentage of revenue for that pharma company is coming through export and not from import, as in not from the domestic sales, and the export component is quite significant. So you have to start learning. So as you're a fund manager or an analyst in the pharmaceutical segment, you need to start learning, and you need to start knowing all the FDA norms and all. That, based on your experience, based on your understanding, how much time does will the FDA approvals take? And accordingly, you'll be able to make projections that, okay, now after this quarter, the company's sales will start going up. So let me just buy the stock before that. Just giving an example. So the technical aspect, the science, the technology, the company's, the core business activity is something that you'll have to understand very well. So we need to understand what kind of products they are doing. And there's more detail generally given in the annual report. In the annual report, in the beginning section, we do have the brand portfolio, the products the company is dealing in. So we have an overview. So we need to obviously get an understanding, a story about the business. And Asian Paints is a company that has always already been covered in a story kind of format, an Unusual Billionaires book as well. So we can go through that as well. Then we are looking at the focus. So now when you're talking about the CEO is giving this opening remark. So he is telling you that the focus is going to be on Paint Total and beautiful home service. Paint Total, so what is the long-term strategy of the company? Now this beautiful home service we are going to discuss later also. There's a new segment that Asian Paints has had it. So the moment I see beautiful homes, it is possible. Now again, understand, when you're doing a con call, you have to also understand the reason why you're doing this con call analysis. The con call analysis could be for the reason that so when you're analyzing a con call, it is possible that I'm covering Asian Paints company for the first time. For the first time, you'll have to do all this hard work, which we are doing right now. because I don't know whether you've gone through Asian Paints earlier or not. But once you revisit this company in the second con call, the third con call, the first time when we are covering a company, it is generally called an initiating coverage. The different reports we'll see separately. And every year when you update yourself, every quarter when you update yourself with the con call and the quarterly results, then that is an update that we do to our existing pool of information, understanding, etc. And you build on a quarter by quarter basis. So don't get irritated that analyzing a company could be that huge a task. Because once you've analyzed and once you've understood the company, then it is just updation of your information. And it's like a story then. And also what happens is, generally you will have a understanding in one particular industry. So you don't analyze 10 stocks of 10 different industries. Generally you start with an industry expertise. So the technical or the science behind it is something that you start understanding already when suppose if I'm going to be looking at the Bajaj paints after this. So you'll understand the logic, the industry better. That is why generally people build an industry expertise into one particular segment. Sorry. Just trying to do something. So we are looking at the beautiful home services. Now, when I'm doing an initiating coverage, which I was talking about, if I'm entering into this segment for the first time, I'm actually going to Google up beautiful home service by Asian Paints, see their website. They've actually come up with a new website for this particular vertical, their beautiful home service. This is more like a startup in a corporate. Now we have to also, when you're doing the valuations and all, the startups get exorbitant, and at times, according to me at least, they get absolutely obnoxious valuations, undeserving valuations. Now when you're looking at a startup within the company, Asian Paints already has got a brand name there. They already have a huge consumer pool. They already have a lot of stores across the country. They already have so much of manufacturing units set up, I think 26 or so. So when you're looking at the size of the company and they start it's a vertical integration or a horizontal integration that they're looking at. They're moving closer to the consumer, that not, or they're widening the array of services. That not only am I going to come and paint your walls, I'm also going to help you with the furniture and a lot of other things. So we are going to get into sanitary business and all. You'll see that they are trying to expand. So this beautiful home service is something that these guys are focusing on. Now when you start looking at it, see, I told you it is so much to analyze and so much to see when you're analyzing a company for the first time. Because when you look at the industry and when you look at the demography of our country, there are a lot of unorganized segments, because carpenters are a little problematic to deal with, carpenters and contractors. Now when you're looking at a relatively low income segment group, then if they want, or a professional service, say for example there's a working couple in Mumbai, Bangalore or some metropolitan area, and they do not have the time to get the entire work done, and they want the quality also. So in that case, probably Asian Paints is trying to cater to that particular segment. So they've started this segment. Of course, there is an opportunity in the market, and that is why they want to expand their product portfolio towards this area. So beautiful homes is a segment that they want to do, and challenging demand. So they are saying that we are doing well even in challenging demand. So the way you're presenting it, that we are trying to outperform, and Asian Paints is a market leader when you're talking about India. So they are showing that outperformance. And when we talk about market leader or something, we again look at whether it is sustainable or not, what is the elasticity and all that. So we'll figure out all those things also, in international. Now the next part he's talking about is the international business, single digit value growth we have done. Egypt, Ethiopia, Emirates, these are the companies they're looking at. They're primarily in the South Asian region and the Middle East region. They've got very less presence in Africa, but they are going to focus on Africa. So I've actually read a lot of things about Asian Paints. I know this company quite well. So that's why I'm connecting it. But I'm telling you is, you need to be so involved with the company that you are also being able to remember these things. So Middle East is something that there. South Asia is pretty good, and Africa and all is something that they want to get into. So segment analysis, we'll have to see that what proportion of revenue is coming from which geographical regions, and what is the taxation rate over there, what are the issues in those countries, is it a huge demand country, like is it an untapped market like in Africa or something, but a difficult terrain to work, or is it a very competitive market, do they have high tax rate, will I have a problem of double taxation and all. So I start thinking of those things. Obviously I don't have an answer right now. I'm just telling you that with every single line, with every single point, there are so many questions that we as analysts will need to answer before we are, and we'll get that information from multiple places, but you start registering the information. So segment analysis would need to be done. In Indonesia also they've started some operation on. Automotive industry, which also, again, so they are also involved in so cars and all are also painted. You paint cars and all that, right? So automotive industry also has a lot of paint related activities done. Now you have to understand the interdependencies or the correlation with other industries. So Asian Paints is not just about coming to your house and painting your walls. So what are the other industries? They have a lot of automotive industry. They cater to a lot of automotive industry, and if there is a slowdown in that particular industry, how are you going to be affected by that? So auto industry के साथ we are seeing a little bit of correlation over here with the auto industry. Okay, so we need to analyze this. And beautiful homes, when we were looking at, we need to see what are the synergies, how are they expanding the product portfolio, is it going to increase the revenue of other products? As in, because Asian Paints is offering me 2 other solutions also, I'd rather not go for a Berger paint, I'd rather go for an Asian Paints because it is going to solve my other 2 problems also. So even if I like Berger paints, or even if I'm indifferent between Berger and Asian, I'm still going to go for Asian. Is that going to happen? Is that going to increase the volume? What is your expectation? What do you think about it? And people do a lot of market research also. So I was just having a word with somebody yesterday, and he's into loan disbursing to automobile companies as well. So he keeps an idea of what cars are coming out and whether the review of the company is good or not, because when you're giving loan to the company, it depends on the profitability of the company, that whether you'll be able to recover that amount or not. So all those things. So it's a huge, are you understanding? And you learn so much. Just imagine you learn the entire business of how to run an Asian Paints, or how Asian Paints is doing as a business. 1,000 crore, thousands of crores worth of revenue these people have, and you can understand the business in and out, right? So this is the automotive industry. So how does it have correlation? Moving on to the next page. So protective coating segment. So they are doing good over here. There is another segment that they are doing good. We are going to be looking at the segment analysis as to geographic segment analysis, is that how much revenue is coming from which country, which locations, and product segment analysis, where we see the revenue coming from different product lines, and we need to understand that. We'll do that. That is given in a very good summary way in annual report also. The softer material price trend. So what do you understand by these terms? Softer material price trend. That is your raw material. The price is softer. The trend is softer. That is relatively declining. So the raw material prices are going to, let's say, are a little on the lower side. So that is why the gross margin has gone up, because obviously if your raw material is cheaper, your profit margin is going to go up. But is that sustainable? We need to figure that out. Is that profit margin sustainable or not? That improvement we need to, and already being passed to the consumer. So basically, if my raw material price goes down, do I charge less from the consumer? If you charge less from the consumer, your profit margin will not get affected. But if you charge less from the consumer, then sales should go up, because if product will get cheaper, more people will buy, sales will go up. So my total profit, even if my margin does not go up, my margin may remain the same. See, raw material price goes down, your margin goes up. But if I reduce my selling price also, my margin will be the same, let's say. But my volume of sales should go up, because I'm going to be selling to more people now, because the product is cheaper. So ultimately my total profitability in terms of crores or in terms of millions or something, that is going to increase. So that is what we are trying to look at over here. So that is what we see. So there is an improvement in gross margin. The benefit has been passed. Why? Check the elasticity of the product. If you make the product cheaper and still people are not going to buy extra, then this is not helping me. My volume does not go up. I want to make a forecast. I want to make prediction about the sales, about the quantity sold. So how do I do that? I need to understand the elasticity of the product also. Okay, I have to touch it from this side. Okay, now when you're looking at the home improvement business, they basically have divided it into 2 segments. So when you do the annual report again, you'll understand. So there are 2 segments are home improvement business is going to be kitchen and sanitary ware. So kitchen also, you would have seen there are businesses into modular kitchens and all, and there are Italian brands and all. People unnecessarily spend a huge amount of money. So now we want a Indian good quality reliable brand in that space. Sanitary ware is also there, so they're getting into that space, so that they're trying to basically increase the product portfolio. That you come to us, we'll take care of everything, you don't have to worry. Kitchen also, a lot of laminate painting and all that is required. Laminate painting, I'm saying, the painting and all that, and cupboards and putting all the hardware in, and also it's quite cumbersome actually. So understand the business model first. What are they looking at? In home improvement business segment, they've got 2 segments. We'll see. Then he's talking about the consolidated financials. So now when you look at the consolidated and standalone annual report, or Concall, or the figures and all, so standalone would mean that the Asian Paints only, and consolidated would include Asian Paints along with its subsidiaries. So now when I'm seeing it over here, Revenue from operations Q4 for quarter 4, only quarter 4 is around 4,600 and it is lower by 7.1% over the previous year. So why is it lower? Now, when you're looking at but 7.1%, lower by 7.1, but the revenue from operation increased by 5% to this much. And this revenue we are talking about the full year. So this revenue 4,600 something is for the quarter. The entire year, of course, 4 times or so, 20,000 or so. 4,600 is becoming 20,000 or so. But the total per annum is increased to 20,211 or whatever. And a basic idea, I'm not asking you to remember exactly 4,636, but a basic idea that around 20,000 crore or something they've clocked in the revenue in the entire year. And for that particular one quarter, it was somewhere close to 4,600. And then we are again coming back, we are seeing that it is lower. But then when you're looking at the profit before interest and taxes, that case, that is higher by 10.7. And when you're looking at the net profit, it is even higher by 25.5%. So now we need to marking. And also I'm marking only annual values to avoid confusion. So when I'm looking at the annual values over here, no, this is not annual, no? Sorry. So when you're marking and all, just make sure that you're marking either only annual or quarterly and very clear, you're not making a mistake there. But if you see, we need to analyze the leverage component over here. Because you started your revenue increase this much, but your operating profit before interest and taxes, your profit before interest taxes this much, and then your net profit is this much. We're talking about operating leverage and financial leverage over here. So we need to analyze that. So these things you'll start understanding once you're in depth with one company. So one company you should know absolutely in and out. So that even in an interview, if you're answering a question, at least that company and any question you should be able to answer. You should have that level of in-depth knowledge. Always helpful to remember the numbers. I've already told you this, sorry, at least in round figure, so do that. Another thing is standalone statement. So when you're comparing a consolidated versus standalone, my consolidated annual revenue was 20,000 or so, and my annual revenue when I'm looking at the standalone statement, it's around 17,000. So 85% of the revenue is coming from Asian Paints standalone alone. The subsidiaries and all are going to be adding to approximately another 15% of the revenue. So we need to understand that how much is coming from subsidiaries and how much is my own personal income. Because so for example, if I take a company like a Grasim over here. Now Grasim is going to be having a huge Ultratech holding and it is going to be having also Idea. So let's ignore Idea altogether. But even if I'm looking at Ultratech, it is going to be a major component of the total Grasim's earning. So Grasim, when I want to look at the company from a textile point of view and when I look at it from a consolidated including the cement point of view, it's going to be a very different figure when I'm looking at the revenue from a consolidated or a standalone perspective. But when I'm looking at an Asian Paints, it is 17,000 crore, which is almost 85% of the entire consolidated revenue. Right, and then the figures are given. I'm not getting into it each figure. Quarter 4 is lower due to COVID. That is understandable. Impact will actually be in quarter 1 FY21 because in quarter 4 FY20, January, February, March, it was only March that was more of disturbed. But when I'm looking at April, May, June, that is going to actually face the challenges. And then even further, there is going to be problems because of the demand that would go down. People are at homes and the entire disruption of supply chain and the global issues with respect to, procuring materials and all of that. And it's too much of a challenge that has happened in the entire COVID year. Now, obviously, when I'm looking at this, so the CEO is again in his opening remarks, he's talking about increased uncertainty. So therefore the risk level of the company goes up. But how are they going to tackle that is going to be very important, and which industry are they working in? Is that going to be, because again, when you're looking at the COVID situation, we are expecting that people are going to be spending more money on their, something is happening. Sorry, just give me 1 second. What is happening? Okay, increased uncertainty. So impairment and all was there. So that is because of which they had to reduce their profits and all to be adjusted. The impairment and all is not recurring. So we need to again think about when we are making projections and all, we need to understand that why this year's profitability was more or less. And whatever be the change in that, whatever be the adjustment in that, we need to make that adjustment. Uncertainty is there, of course, but still we were thinking, we were discussing that people are generally going to now spend a little more money and they want more permanent homes, because that is, home is where the heart is. I don't remember kiska tagline hai, which company's tagline is it. So Anyway, so that could actually maybe help them increase their demand over here. Effective corporate tax rate has gone down from 34 to 0.94, so that is going to be major. So we do the DuPont analysis formula I'm not discussing right now. If you have a problem, ratio analysis mein DuPont analysis is covered. So now the profit that we are getting because of the effective tax rate going down, now is it tax rate going down only this year because of some regime changes? Do we expect this to reverse? Is the budget going to come up with something else? Is this tax rate because my revenue has increased in some other country because of which it is happening? Has there been so when if say for example your revenue is coming from another where the tax rate is very low, because of that my effective tax rate has gone down? Is it because I have acquired some company this year which had a lot of tax loss carry forward for previous years, and because of that my this year's profit is set off and my profitability corporate tax rate has effectively gone down? So there is going to be a certain amount of analysis that is going to be required over here. Alright, let's move to the next part. So the dividend has been given over here. So dividend details he's mentioning, final dividend of this much and total dividend of the entire year is this much. So this dividend is for the Q4, and then in the middle of the year they must have given some dividends, which brings the total over here. Now per share dividend has gone up, but dividend payout ratio might have gone down. Net income has also gone up due to taxation. Is the growth rate in the dividend sustainable? We need to ask these questions and we need to start addressing these. So we have some data over here. Obviously, once we do financial modeling and we do the valuation of the entire company, the entire stock, we'll have to take into consideration all these factors over here. Then he's given a COVID update. So I'm just telling you what are the data. I'm not doing the analysis and I'm not telling you exactly what will go into the financial model, which also financial modeling part we'll probably look at. COVID situation is very important because these adjustments are going to be needed. Because when we are making projections, when we make projections for FY21, 22, 23, 24, every year is not a COVID year. It's a post-COVID year, of course. So if there is any permanent change in the industry, in the economy as such, in that case, we need to incorporate that. But otherwise, we still need to see what changes needs to be made to the net income so as to make it normalize and make projections for the coming years. This year's income, I'm going to take it whatever they've given, but future years, how is it going to be impacting and how is it going to be changing? I need to make adjustments. So, and also I need to check the going concern. Actually not required in a company like in Asian Paints, but in generally you would want to know that if there is a question that the company may not be able to survive, that is possible in SME, in business verticals, let's say Jain Irrigation or something, which is already facing a lot of challenges in terms of being able to pay their debt. So over there we need to do all those things. What is the CEO's review on that? What is his opening remark on that front? Business is picking up mostly in the small towns and cities. So we have to again see what kind of demand are we getting from tier 2, tier 3 cities and the rural areas, because that is where a lot of companies, even when you're looking at the e-commerce companies and all, they're trying to focus a lot in that segment. And lockdown, they've taken care of the employees very well. It also is important because, the attrition is also a problem. And Asian Paints, again, it's also a service-driven industry because these people take contracts where they're going to be painting your entire house and you're done. It's not just the paint that they're selling, and they're moving. You will see in some places, I think it's in this or in annual report or Concall, they're moving towards more of a service-driven industry company. And so taking care of the employees is important also because it's first thing, it's human to do that, and reputational risk is also there if you don't take care of your employees, your union issues and all that, so that becomes a challenge. Then we are looking at, so safety protocols and all was taken. They have supported central government with initiatives, paid some money into the fund and all that, and NGOs and all that. So all that he's giving, these are important to avoid. Reputational risk, I've already told you. Very easily in the social media era, it has actually become very important to take care of things because things are blown out of proportion very easily. People start random boycott movements and all that, and litigation issues also. So we don't want the company to get into those kind of challenges. And CSR spends also, we need to see that how is it going to be impacting the CSR spend. CSR part, we'll come to it later also again. Next, so responsible and caring brand. So that is the kind of branding they've done. They've also taken the opportunity to start a range of hand sanitizers because they're manufacturing paint and all, so they were able to foray into this segment also. Safe painting is basically in order to maintain the continuity of their business. Safe painting in the sense that the company is promising you that don't worry. You see the Urban Club ads also, na, that these guys are sanitized every day, their temperature and all is checked before they come to your house for whatever cleaning or haircut or whatever. So similarly, they have also provided that additional customer service and all that we are going to be taking care of, and the painting, safe painting is there, so you don't have to worry about it. In fact, later on in the con call, we will see there are Q&A sections where we are going to be talking about that because of this sanitization and because of this assurance, has the cost for the company gone up, which it has, and when the cost is going up, are they going to be bearing the cost themselves, the company will bear the cost, then the margin goes down, or are they going to be passing on to the customers, which is going to be increasing the pricing of the products, which is again going to be hampering sales. So we want to look at that. And then the Q&A starts. So we are confident that the initiatives will be good in this, that. So the CEO's remarks have ended, and now the moderator is asking that the first question is going to be answered by XYZ from XYZ company, AMC, mutual fund house, analyst, or whoever it is. And then the Q&A round is going to start. So we've actually had a very, very detailed discussion on just the beginning part of the con call. I know I've spent a lot of time over here. Let me do a couple of question and answers for you, and then I'll give you some time to analyze, and we'll probably do another round of Q&A session after this. So let me just go through the first one. So the other paint company, so the moderator forwards a question to Edelweiss Abneesh Roy, and his question is that the other paint companies, there's a peer analysis, and you dig in for information. You always want more information, because see, the management is always going to know more about the company than you. They are inside the company, they have all the information. Now you also do a peer analysis. You do a lot of analysis with respect to other companies, and you ask intrusive questions. At times the management will diplomatically tackle the question. At times they'll have to answer, because they don't want to give a wrong notion to the public, to the market at large, now, because then people will start selling the stock that something is going wrong, something is fishy. Why aren't they being able to explain XYZ? And similar trends. So the management has more data analysis. So we want to ask questions with respect to that peer, this is happening back to almost 80% pre-COVID levels. Are you also seeing similar trend? So when we are looking at Berger or some other companies, they're almost back to pre-COVID levels, or at least 80% of that. Are you also seeing a similar stance? And then the question is being answered by the CEO. So there will be questions which the CEO will answer. There will be questions which the CFO or the GM finance could take up. So that is fine. So yes, we have seen an improvement. The answer comes up. Difficult to put a number. Again, dodging the question. Because obviously the management also does not want to give all the numbers or all the crucial information. So generally they won't give all the exact quantitative data that they don't want to. Obviously they'll have to tackle these things. Reinstatement of the lockdown. So there is a caveat. So we have seen. So the only thing is that certain parts of the country, they're saying that the reinstatement after the lockdown is not happening all across the country. We've seen issues in different parts. So it's not that the entire country has opened up absolutely evenly throughout. There were different zones, and Bengal was doing absolutely something else, and they had their own color coding. So everybody was trying to do the things in their own way, or whatever. I'm not getting into that aspect, but the reinstatement was happening in different parts of the country in different ways. So we can't comment. That is what he was saying. He was trying to dodge the question. There's a follow-up question over here. So he's talking about how do you see the demand in the medium term? Because demand is going to be very important, extremely important, because you need to understand what kind of sales you'll be able to drive. In order to project that, I want to understand the demand. Now more people will be working from home. They'll be encouraging home painting and all. That is a positive aspect. So are you seeing that? Are you seeing that increase? Titan said that people will cut down on sales, on overseas travel, marriage, etc. expenses, but people will spend on jewelry, because people want more tangible wealth now. Possibly. My assumption could also be that people may not spend on jewelry also. They will spend on a house first, because jewelry is something that you temporarily use, but house is something that you live in 24/7. So there are, for example, a couple of things that I do spend on. I generally don't want to spend on things unnecessarily. I definitely don't spend on things for others, to show others or whatever. But there's a phone that I always invest in, because phone is something that I'm going to be 24/7 using, and throughout at least for 3 years or 4 years. 3 years, 4 years maybe over to 3 years, because I use it to a certain extent, because obviously the entire office, WhatsApp and everything is running, but my phone may not have games or any of those Candy Crush and even social digital media and all that. It's more of WhatsApp and reading and a lot of other work. Anyway, so you have to think. You always, because as Warren Buffett sir said that, If everybody is eating Cadbury, so if you're finding more of Cadbury wrappers in the dustbin, then the company is worth investing. So if today I want to paint my house, I'm probably going to I'm definitely going to go to Asian Paints only. So do you think that way? Am I going to spend more on jewelry? No, I don't think I'm going to spend more on jewelry. And also because I have the opportunity to be invested in gold through sovereign gold bond or an ETF gold or something. And the resale value is very poor when you're looking at even gold. Making charges deducted, this, that, purity and all of that, it's a big hassle. Physical gold sell karna, it's not a good idea ever. And that's another actually discussion altogether. So I'll not get into that. So always you start thinking from your point of view also, and not that you are always going to be correct. You talk to 5 other people and then you see what is the consensus, because ultimately the market determines the demand, not me personally, right? So we need to understand those questions. And so he's saying that paint is a discretionary spend. So his answer on that in terms of demand, that paint is a discretionary spend, that means there is a little bit of elasticity over there. So it's not a necessity. It's not a necessity that people have to spend. Getting someone outside into your home is a challenge, because obviously people are very scared post-COVID. We're talking about Q1 after COVID, not now. It's been a while. And therefore they launched the safe painting, I told you. So people will really value their home far more. So that is an advantage. So people value their homes now. They want more demand. They want to get their homes painted, but they are scared and skeptical of getting people inside the house. So what do? I need to jump in. Safe painting. I am giving you guarantee that you don't worry about it. Urban Club, same example. People cannot go to the salons. So it's a good opportunity that, please get your haircut at home. And now actually I found that it's very convenient to get a haircut at home. It saves my commute time and all that. And it's so easy to just call somebody, sit on the terrace and get the haircut done. So we'll have to see. But I enjoyed that. But again, the moment lockdown, everything was fine. Again, went back to the salon because they have more equipment and all that, whatever they use in order to do that. And your house doesn't get dirty. That is more important. So the Q&A continues. We are going to discuss this further in the next class, but this is how you read a Concall. Now, a few things that I want you to understand while reading the Concall. So one, I would expect you to start reading the Concall. Let's see how much of notes you can make in terms of analysis you can do while reading. And then we'll again go through this particular Concall, at least I'll try to do, and analyze, because I want to get into the Asian Paints very much in detail. Now, when you people are highlighting the Concall, whether you're using a soft copy to highlight, there are people I know who take out printouts and too much of printouts and all that. I have actually was always against reading online. I'm always in favor of reading on pen and paper. So that's obviously more convenient, but I've started using a tab to do the reading and all. That makes it very easy, and highlighting and all of that. So the reading is very normal, and obviously I cannot keep on taking printouts of 200-page annual report, 20-page Concall and 4 Concalls and then multiple companies and all. So it becomes very expensive that way. So that is up to you. So, and highlighting and making corrections is easier this way. But while you're highlighting a Concall, always use your 3 colors. I'll tell you the reason why in the next class, and there's going to be a task over there. So I'll tell you how to make a template of a Concall analysis. We'll discuss that in the next part once I continue with this Concall. But while reading the Concall, you need to do one task. You need to read the entire Concall Q4 2020 and read this Concall, even if it is 4 years old or 5 years old, you're doing this lecture later on, whatever it is. I know this Concall has become old for me also now, but you read this Q4 2020 Concall only. And when you read the Concall, you're supposed to be underlining or highlighting it. If you have a physical copy, you underline or highlight with 3 different color pens. Otherwise, you highlight over here. Make sure you use 3 different colors. If there is something that the management has revealed which is positive, you highlight it with a green or something. If it is something which is negative, you do highlight with a red. And if it is something which is neutral, you can do a gray, blue. Let's all stick to a neutral shade. Let's do a gray. So in that case, if there's something neither positive nor negative, you're going to do a gray. Otherwise, green and lighter green and lighter red ka shade, lighter shades. And you're going to be highlighting that. If you want to write something, put an arrow and write something, you write over there. But that is how you're going to do it. What we are actually going to do after this is that once I do the next class of Concall and next lecture on Concall, and I'll show you how to convert it into a tabular form so that we are able to see the trend and all. That I'll come to in the next part. But first you need to read the Concall, understand, think the way I'm thinking over here, and start highlighting in 3 different colors, because I'm going to categorize it put it in a format where we are able to see the positives of the con call, negatives and neutral aspects of the con call, so that when I see con call of Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, I can see the entire thing in a go. So your first task is going to be right now to complete this con call by your own, underlining, understanding every single small point and all, underlining in 3 different colors and completing this. Then I will move with the con call and you will try to figure out that what are the portions that you missed out, which I have highlighted. There could be areas which you have gotten into more detail and I have missed out. That's fine. But we will do this part with the con call. Comfortable till here? You understanding how a con call works? And also I'll give you a couple of homeworks. I'm going to be very strict with you people. I'm going to give you a lot of homeworks and all to do. Now, one homework with con call is also going to be that you're going to be listening to the con call. This is a transcript. This is a conversation that is going on a phone call, right? Where people can have access to. You can listen to these con calls, right? And you will be listening to a con call also. This is a transcript. This is a written transcript, written dialogues of the entire con call, conference call between the management. We've seen the people involved and the investors, analysts and all, right? So that is also going to be a task. So now you start writing your homeworks also at the side separately. That listen to a con call, not just read. Second, highlight this entire con call in 3 different shades, this entire con call with your analysis points and all written. These are going to be your 2 tasks right now, immediately after this con call part we've done.